Buffkin. Mills makes it tough to throw the line drive pass.
Starts when touch. Long pass. Walker and Green battle. Walker fires up. It's over. Michigan has won a national championship. And for the third time in the last 8 games, it has been decided by 1 point. The Wolverines win an NCAA title over Seton Hall, a tough opponent all the way.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome into this afternoon live. Dennis Fithian here after a few technical difficulties. We're ready to get things underway this afternoon. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching here via the replay, you see Daniel Dash, the beat writer, TMBR, and he'll be covering the basketball game for us tonight. And it's great to have him on. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing well. I've enjoyed the first 2 games of the basketball season and looking forward to another one tonight.
Yeah, I have too. You know what? There's a lot of anticipation, a lot of hope. I know the ceiling seems pretty high for this team here. You know what? I was watching Juwan Howard talk, I think yesterday about his team. And, you know, when it came to Devontae Jones, he said he liked him on offense and defense. What are your thoughts here, just 2 games in of the transfer from Coastal Carolina?
I think he's a perfect fit for what Juwan Howard likes to do. Obviously, coming from the NBA, Juwan Howard runs a very pro-style, up-tempo offense. A lot of it is grounded in ball screens, and I think that's why Xavier Simpson and Juwan Howard were just really a natural fit, and you don't see that often, and it's really cool when a first-year head coach comes in and the cupboard is already stocked. But where I've seen Juwan separate himself in the last 2 years is as a recruiter with point guards. I think he's used the portal really well, picked up 2 pretty good graduate transfers to run the offense. Obviously, Mike Smith last year did real well. I think he set the Big Ten tournament record for assists in a single game in that win over Maryland. Throughout the year, he, really just grounded the offense in the way that Simpson did. But if you look at Simpson and Smith, I think both of them kind of pale in comparison to Jones in terms of size. I mean, Jones is a legit 6'1", 6'2", with a 6'6" wingspan. And I think that's why he's probably the best two-way player that Howard has had in his system so far as a point guard. And I think that Jones, so far as he's settling into the offense, has shown a lot of promise. I think there's a lot of really good chemistry there with Eli Brooks, too. They talked about working really hard over the summer at Chrysler through open gyms, early practice, just getting to know each other, getting to know their play styles. Obviously, Eli Brooks is, I think, significantly better off the ball. Devontae Jones on the ball. And I think so far we're seeing the success that's, kind of coming from that foundation that they laid over the summer.
Yeah, usually you're talking about length. You're talking about guys in the front court, but with Devontae Jones, you can see it. He gets his hands; they're pretty active, whether it's in passing lanes or just going after a ball if it's available for you. He's tipping it away, and next thing you know, he's off. That's worked pretty good. The freshman. I saw the exhibition game, and then I've seen these first 2 games. So that's what I've seen from these half dozen freshmen. Even though we haven't seen all of them, but Kobe Buffkin, I know you did a story on the 6'4" lefty out of Grand Rapids, and he's pretty versatile. I saw him in the exhibition game. He was handling it a little bit. I don't know about him running the show or anything, but I saw him with a smooth drive and jumper this last game, and there's a lot to like about this kid.
Yeah, I think offensively he's got a really high ceiling, also a really high floor. I think there are a lot of things that he does really well for a kid who's 17, 18 years old as a freshman. Still so much he can learn. I think with guards, the biggest thing you see, at least in terms of acclimating to the college level after being high school stars, is the pace of play. And I think that because Buffkin moves so well, I mean, he's just so fluid. I think that really hasn't been much of a problem for him. Maybe mentally things are starting to move a little faster, but physically he really looks like he's keeping up. Love the fact that he's got such a smooth game. I think that opens a lot of doors for Michigan's offense. Like you mentioned in that exhibition against Wayne State, the first time he came off the bench, Devontae Jones and Eli Brooks were both off the court. Buffkin got some extended run at point guard. I thought he did a good job. He's a good facilitator. I think that coming out of ball screens, he can probably do a little more work. But I think in general, he's showing a lot of the signs that you like to see from a freshman, showing that, that versatility is there and it's only going to keep growing. I think he played 17 minutes against Prairie View A&M. So with Zeb Jackson still out with a non-COVID illness, it should be specified. Buffkin's going to keep getting some extended run. And I think that, there's some opportunity there to really get his foot in the door and establish himself as one of the first guys off the bench for Michigan. And if he can keep getting better throughout the season, I know with freshmen, you want to see progress every single time they take the court. But I mean, by March, he could be one of their best offensive weapons coming off the bench.
All right, you mentioned March, and I feel like, last year, I don't think it was a lightning in the bottle type situation. It was a fantastic year, even though Michigan wasn't going into last year expected to win the Big Ten. I think they were, in the middle of the pack, at least, the fifth or sixth when you were heading into the season last year. And of course, they went in there and won it. And then this year coming in, I thought, the ceiling, winning the Big Ten tournament, as far as you wanted to take them when you get to March and talk about the NCAA tournament. But I've seen a lot of people having the tap the brakes type situation. And, this team is not as good as last year. And I know we're not going to know for a little while, but because of the coaching staff and the continuity and having Hunter Dickinson, who's a matchup problem and is somebody that I think can take you wherever you want to go. I feel like, there should be a lot of optimism and excitement about this team. Do you share that? And do you see some people, that are hesitant to, buy into this year's team?
I do. And I think the big difference between last year's team and this year's team, at least on the standpoint of November 16th perspective, is that last year, obviously the COVID year kind of put a damper on things excitement-wise. The season started late. But last year's team had a really high floor. I mean, you knew what you were getting in Isaiah Livers. You knew what you were getting in Franz Wagner. You knew Mike Smith was coming over from Columbia without very many question marks. You knew you had Eli Brooks. You knew you had, Sean D. Brown, who had a really strong 3 years at Wake Forest. This year, I think there are a couple more question marks. I mean, you look at Caleb Houston and Musa Diabate coming straight out of high school. Brandon Johns Jr., he didn't really have extended run as a starter until last year's NCAA tournament. That was only because Livers couldn't play because of the stress fracture in his foot. You look at Kobe Buffkin, who, is still a question mark now, even though he's showing promise. I think that there's just so much room for this year's team to grow. And I think by March, this year's team could be better than last year's team, at least fully healthy. I think sophomore year Dickinson is starting to show a lot more. I know as a former big man myself, you can't see on the StreamYard, but I'm 6'9", so I've gone about the post move thing. I know how hard it is to add counters to your game, and I think Dickinson's done a really good job. I think that his right hand so far has shown a lot of promise. And for those of you who weren't tuned in at the very beginning of that Prairie View A&M game, he did hit a three. It was a pretty fluid pick and pop three, end of the shot clock. It looked really natural coming out of his hand. I think his jump shot form for someone who's 7'2", 260 pounds is really good. I think that just in terms of athleticism, John Sanderson has been able to unlock a lot in Dickinson. And then obviously we talked about Devontae Jones. I think he might have the highest floor of any guard that Howard has gotten from the transfer portal.
Hey, Daniel, give me a thought on the two highly rated freshmen. You already mentioned them, and I guess you fit right in between a 6'8" Caleb Houston and a 6'11" Musa Diabate. Diabate first, I know he's had a few turnovers, and Houston did too last game, but I like that Juwan Howard and the staff has gone out there and has allowed him to just go out there. Diabate, I'm talking about specifically, just saying, hey, let's see what you can do. And he's pretty much shown everything. I don't think there's anything he can't do. And maybe when they go back and look at that film, they'll say, hey, you might not want to jump or get in the air, when you're making this pass or anything. But all I think, passing, dunking, rebounding, rim running, he doesn't seem to have, anything that you would want him to do. He seems like he's been at least shown flashes here in the early going that he's been able to do that. What do you think of Diabate, who was ranked, he was a 5-star, ranked number 25 overall in that Rivals 150. So he comes in with some heavy credentials.
Yeah, I think the first thing that stands out when you look at Diabate play is his athleticism. This is a guy with a ridiculously high motor, a really good vertical, moves really well. And I think that, obviously his flashy dunks have kind of broken Twitter over these first few games, but I think that where I've seen him make a big impact, that is defensively. There were points against Buffalo when he was guarding the other team's point guard. Against Prairie View A&M, when they set ball screens, he would switch on to the guard and the ball handler. And I think that it's just such a luxury in a day and age when, 7'1", 7'2" centers are kind of going out of style. And I think that Michigan kind of has this dichotomy between Diabate and Dickinson where, they have the best of both worlds. And I think as they continue to play together on the floor, it's going to become one of their more unstoppable lineups. And then I think with Houston, what I've seen so far is consistency. His shot selection is fantastic. I don't think I've seen an 18-year-old with that kind of basketball IQ in a really long time. Obviously, one of the smooth jump shot strokes. I mean, every time the ball leaves his hand, it looks like it's going to find the net. And then I think also with Houston, what you got to like is the fact that he can play within an offense. I think a lot of 5-stars come in, they like to play ISO ball. They look at themselves as that sort of, one-on-one superstar, take their man to the rim. I think the way Houston plays within the flow of Michigan's offense, off ball screens, off kickouts, I think is just a really good fit for what Howard likes to do.
How about a preview of tonight's game? I thought that maybe the Buffalo game, which was last Wednesday, might have been Michigan's toughest test that they would have all month. Not, looking at UNLV, where at least the coaches had predicted they were going to be in the Mountain West before the season, and same thing with Seton Hall. It's not like they were picked up, in the Big East and one of the top 4 or 5 teams, and Buffalo with their experience and everything. But you do have an experienced team in Seton Hall. It's been 30 some odd years, which is a surprise, since Michigan, they played them in '89 in the championship game, played them next year. They haven't played them since. So there'll be a lot of '89 championship talk tonight. I know you weren't around for that one, Daniel, but so this is the first time you'll ever see the Pirates, and maybe you'll see some of those eye patches and people talking like Pirates tonight. But, what do you think of this matchup tonight?
I've seen Seton Hall play quite a few times. I'm from New York, and Seton Hall, being from New Jersey, is kind of the best basketball team around. I used to go to Barclays Center every year for the Big East tournament while I was in high school. I got to see those Isaiah Whitehead teams. Seton Hall's good. Kevin Willard's a good coach. They have Jared Roden. He's a first-team All Big East selection, 6'7" shooting guard. I think he's coming back from an ankle injury. I saw he came off the bench against Yale. He missed the game against Fairleigh Dickinson. I don't know how they're managing him. I don't know if he's going to be in the starting lineup tonight. I think, for Seton Hall, at least, this is a chance to come to Ann Arbor and get a really strong non-conference win. I'd be surprised if Roden didn't play as much as he could. But one thing to keep an eye on is Seton Hall's size. Buffalo and Prairie View A&M both didn't have much height to throw at Dickinson. I think tonight you're going to see some 7-footers going one-on-one in the post with Dickinson. Going to be pretty close to what he'll see this year in the Big Ten. I'm going to have my eye on that matchup, see how he responds in the low post. And I think if you look at it, this is a game that, could come down to the wire the way it did against Buffalo. I know Michigan kind of established some breathing room towards the end, but Seton Hall is no cakewalk.
No cakewalk. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Any prediction on the game? Michigan's favored by 8.5 here. I would expect them to win the game. What about you?
Yeah, I could see them winning by about that. I think somewhere in the 10 to 15 point range is what I'd pick. I think that Michigan's going to have a pretty big advantage in the backcourt, especially if Roden's not healthy. We'll see if Zeb Jackson plays. I know Frankie Collins is still slowly making his way back from that groin injury, but Michigan should be pretty close to full strength, if not at full strength tonight.
All right, great. Late night at the Chrysler Center here for you. What time are you getting down there?
You can thank Fox. There's actually a women's basketball game right before, so we'll see. I'd like to watch the end of it. I'm trying to watch the women's team as much as possible this year. They look fantastic. Yeah,
why not? I don't mind the 9 o'clock starts once in a while. And if you didn't, you know what, get used to it, because Friday, what do we got? It was a little confusing, but when it says Saturday at 12:30 a.m., I was thinking, okay, it's going to be a long Saturday. No, it's going to be a late Friday and early Saturday. So that game is going to tip off 12:30 Friday night or early Saturday morning. So it gets a little bit confusing, but all right, Daniel, we certainly appreciate it. We've been enjoying your work. It's the first time I've actually talked with you like interview style, and I hope to do it again.
Yes. Let's get something going before Friday's trip to Vegas.
There you go. Let's do it. All right. Take care.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Dennis.
There he is, Daniel Dash. He is the beat writer for Michigan basketball. Now, I had welcome in. There was some technical difficulties with our software. It would be easy to tell you that I wasn't ready to go, but that's not true. I was ready to go. Sitting here, sometimes, you're at the mercy of the computer, and that's what happened. And I had a guest lined up, and so that's why occasionally I was looking down. I'm texting with him. I could just call him up on the fly and see if we could just get her going. Let's just see, because he said it's. Well, let me do this. I have, speaking of the 89 championship game, I did put some audio together. And as I was watching the game, I can play some of that while we do. I see our guest is working, getting ready here. Let me play a little bit of that. This is courtesy of CBS and YouTube. Here's Jim Nantz getting you ready for that 89 tilt.
Live from the Kingdome in Seattle, Washington, CBS Sports welcomes you to the national championship game between the University of Michigan and Seton Hall. And good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Nantz. On October 15th, 293 Division I colleges and universities open practice in pursuit of one goal, winning this championship trophy. 3 weeks ago, 64 teams were selected to participate in this year's tournament, and tonight we are down to 2, Michigan and Seton Hall, neither of whom has ever won the national championship. And so as we look for the Wolverines and the Pirates provide us with that one shining moment.
All right, well, they'll get that going tonight. There's a young Jim Nantz talking, and you know what? He was set to start us out on the broadcast, and now he's joining us midstream here, and it's great to bring in Jake Weingarten. Now, Jake, I was going to say, hey, am I saying your name right before it went on? So I asked you right out of the gate. Well, how am I?
You said it perfectly, man. I appreciate you for having me on.
Yeah, you're the founder of StockRisers.com, and you know what? It didn't take me by surprise, but I was just looking through, and you were talking about one of Michigan's signees. You know, they made it official last week, and they signed their letters of intent. And Tarris Reed Jr., the 6'8" 4-star. You were talking about how you liked him, and I thought, well, let me send Jake a message and see if we can get him on. Anybody that's watched, you know, a future Wolverine, we would be interested in talking with. You love, you said you love Tarris Reed, huh?
Of course, I love Tarris Reed, and you know, for Juwan Howard and Michigan, like he's perfect, literally on the court. You know, 6'8", like you said, and I was kind of baffled with his rankings all year long, especially at Peach Jam. Peach Jam, he was dominant, one of the best performers I was able to watch. Rebounding, scoring. Every time I look at the stat sheet, Tarris popped up. And, you know, it's actually funny because I talked to him before Peach Jam started, and I was like, are you motivated at all? Is there any motive? Like, is there any extra? Is it different this year? You know, last year on the circuit, and, you know, is there a lot to prove? And he said, man, I'm just going to go play my game and see what happens. And I was like, wow. And that kind of boosted his confidence a little bit, got him in the top 60. And, you know, I think, you know, when you look at guys that Juwan Howard's gotten over the past few years, obviously there's 5 stars and, you know, there's guys like that. But Tarris Reed is a guy who's going to leave his mark on the program.
Yeah, when you watch him, you mentioned the rebounding and seeing him at the Peach Jam. How would you say anything more on his game? Is he somebody that you're going to see down in the post? Is he somebody that can step out and shoot it a little bit? Does he got bump and grind? Who does he remind you of?
So with Tarris, I mean, it's kind of early to give any comparisons. I'm not too big on it. But, you know, you look at forwards in the league now that, you know, can play in the paint and, you know, run the perimeter, and Bam Adebayo kind of comes to mind for me. And, you know, you look at Bam, polished handle, which I think Tarris is working on. He can run the paint. You know, when you look at big men nowadays, not every big has a polished handle or, you know, is as mobile as certain other bigs. But, you know, with Tarris, he can guard the perimeter really well. He can guard the paint really well on defense. And offensively, I mean, rebounding, scoring at the rim, and, you know, working on becoming a 3-level scorer as well. But, you know, Tarris is going to give you everything. And, you know, off the court as well. I don't know how much Michigan fans have gotten to learn about him off the court, but he's also a great kid. And he's, you know, grew up in a great family and has great people around him. And, you know, his on the court success is going to reflect off the court as well.
I would say all of that is music to Michigan fans' ears. It is the founder of StockRisers.com. Jake Weingarten is joining us here on TMBR and talking about Tarris Reed Jr. out of St. Louis, Branson, Missouri, which is right there, right outside of St. Louis. And he ranked number 45 in the Rivals 150 for next year. Michigan's class as a team, number 8 overall. I'd like to hear what you think of Juwan Howard. This is going into his 3rd year. You mentioned, you know, they had one of the top 3 recruiting classes coming in this year. We've seen a little bit of Caleb Houston and Musa Diabate. These guys, you know, excitement is the word from what we've seen from the first 2 games. But what have you seen from Juwan Howard and what people are saying about the Michigan basketball program just 2 years and 2 games in for Coach Howard?
Man, I don't think he sleeps at all, honestly. He's always working. But I actually saw him a couple months ago in the gym. I was over in Kentucky at a tournament, and he was in there working. I mean, it was the first day of the live period, and I got a couple of Juwan Howard recruiting stories. I saw him in Brooklyn a few years ago as well. He flew down to recruit Josh Christopher. I know that's a hard name to say to Michigan fans, but
it's all right. We can take it now.
He flew down and watched Josh Christopher 3 hours after playing coaching in a game. So, I mean, from there, I was just able to see the kind of worker he was and, the guys he's recruiting. And, I mean, it's reflecting. And Hunter Dickinson's a guy that I scouted and have a relationship with. And, what he says about Juwan is this is a guy that's going to take me to the league. And Hunter Dickinson definitely surprised people when he got there with, such a big impact, a big role and what he's been able to do. But, for me, Juwan Howard's ability to recruit and coach at the same time is, it's outstanding. And he put a good staff together and a really great roster. And, this is a team this year that I believe is going to make it really far and, for the years to come.
Yeah, I also saw, looking at your Twitter feed, that you were out and you saw Memphis play the other night. You saw Emoni Bates from around here. I don't know if Michigan ever made a call or thought about it. It looked like he was heading to Michigan State the whole time, but there was always the possibility of him going right to the pros or going to the G League or anything else. He ends up in Memphis. But what did you think of Bates seeing him live?
So it was crazy. I actually was at the game for my best friend's birthday, and I wasn't even there scouting or working or anything, and I was still locking in. And first play I saw him, he pulled up from 3, and it was insane. And Emoni is just a generational talent. And I think, the thing that stands out with me and, seeing him in high school, his maturity level has grown a lot. When he checked out of the game, fist bumped every single teammate, every single manager, every personnel on the floor, and, just his energy. And you could tell that Penny Hardaway and his staff instilled some sort of pro mentality in him because he just looked completely different. And he was the animal on the boards, pulling up from 3 range, going to the rim with basketball players. But he's a generational talent, and it really doesn't get better than him. And I think LeBron and KD comparisons are kind of outlandish, and I'd kind of give him his own type of name. And I think he's going to build his own legacy, and those comparisons will stop. But he's a generational talent for sure. And when he gets that chance to make the jump, he's going to be a lottery pick.
I watched him last year one time. ESPN had his game on just down the road here in Ann Arbor at Concordia College. He was going against Chet Holmgren's team. So, it was back and forth between what you thought were maybe the top 2 players in the country, certainly top 3 as it ended up shaking out. However, the different rankings are, and Holmgren didn't disappoint. Bates was jacking up a lot of threes, and I thought, but right after that game, or maybe it was during the game, I was just kind of searching around, and in some coach or somebody, they had the video of maybe the last 10, 15 shots, but they were like, Emoni Bates can make 56. I don't know. Did he make like 73s in a row? Which,
yes,
I know that the Steph Curry has some kind of crazy number.
He made 73 threes in a row during a workout. Sick. It's a generational talent, man. Generational talent.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, as you go around here, Jake, is when you look at so now we're into 2022 or 2023 beyond. Are you looking at guys? Are you're ranking them where they fit coming out of high school? Or are you doing it more towards how much they might gear up towards the pros? I mean, how are you looking at that?
Yeah, so I'm watching high school kids all year, and the high school kids I scout in high school, I'm obviously going to keep close tabs in college and ultimately the pros. So, I mean, yeah, when I'm watching high school games, I'm looking for pros. And, I'm not just looking for guys who I know are going to be great at the college level. I'm looking at guys that are going to be great on the college level and take that work ethic to the NBA. That's what I look for. I also look for high character. When I talk to college coaches, they don't want a kid who, works out once a week and then just stops working out and doesn't really care. They want guys who are going to grind and focus on academics and, work on the end goal, which is winning a championship and not just making it to the NBA. So I'm definitely looking for winners, pros, and, I feel like I have a knack to find underrated guys that kind of fall under the radar. You look at Michigan guys that they've landed. I'm very big on Frankie Collins, and I think he's going to be a guy that's going to have a huge impact in that program, whether it's this year, next year, or his junior year, however long he stays. But that's a kid that, I think has a pro mentality and is going to be a pro.
Yeah, well, tell me a little bit more. I was going to say that's it, but if you bring up Frankie Collins and you watched him play, we've seen just a little bit of him coming off the bench. Like you said, it's only been 2 games. He didn't play the exhibition game that was available to stream, so I've just seen him in, parts of 2 games coming off the bench. But you think he's the real deal?
Oh, I think he's the real deal. You look at guards that, are lightning fast and, grab rebounds for his size. He's not the tallest guy on the floor, and everybody knows that. So his ability, he kind of plays with a big man mentality. He gets his own boards. He finds his own shot, creates space, and, he's really good in the pick and roll. If you give him the right big man, a.k.a. Tarris, in the future, that could be a lethal duo. But I watched him play 3 or 4 years of high school ball, and he impressed me every single time. And, he transitioned to a few different schools, but at the end of the day, he knew his role. And I just told you, I look for guys that, regardless of their situation and what role they're in, they're going to thrive and work hard. And, that's what Frankie does. And I'm really excited to see how his future pans out.
All right. It's Jake Weingarten. He's the founder of stockrisers.com. Jake Weingarten, at Jake Weingarten on Twitter. Jake and Weingarten, Weingarten, or you can just look on my Twitter page. I just recently followed him over the last week or 2, and I saw that Tarris Reed Jr. Tweet. So you can find him that way. And I'll tell you what, Jake, anytime you see anybody out there that has any interest or anything to do with the Michigan Wolverines, let's reconnect and we can have you on again. And I enjoyed our conversation here. Thanks so much for being flexible too, man. I was throwing the ball up at 1:00. Next thing you know, it said error, and I'm over here telling you like, hey, we got to rework things. Thanks for that,
Dennis. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, take care of yourself. Thanks for coming on.
You too. No problem.
There he is, Jake Weingarten from stockrisers.com. He saw Tarris Reed Jr. play. All right, it's the rematch of the 89 title game. I was asking people, Wolverine Den, to give me their favorite memories of the 89 championship run. I'll look at some of those and see what people came up with just in a moment. Earlier, I was up early this morning, and the first thing that I did, I was thinking about Michigan Seton Hall in 89, so I put the game on. They had it there in its entirety on YouTube, and you get into the second half, and I remember Bob Lee, who used to do Outside the Lines on ESPN. I interviewed him a long time ago, and I had him cut something for the station, like, hey, this is Bob Lee. You're listening to the station, and here's what's going on. So he did it, and what he did, he said, hey, this is Bob Lee, and you're listening to the station, and Ramil was not fouled. So way back in the day, a Seton Hall guy and Bob Lee was talking about Ramil not getting fouled. And then when it came down to it again, 3 seconds to go in overtime, Michigan down 1. It is the softest, the nickel and dime, how Bill Rafferty would call it. I mean, it is such a touch foul that happens. And Ramil goes to the line. He drains both of them. Michigan wins the national championship. But if you think about from a Seton Hall standpoint for just 1 second, is that, Seton Hall has not had much success, since that championship run. I hadn't looked through to see how many times that they've been in a tournament, a couple of times here and there, but, Final Four championship game, it was like that was their shot 30 some odd years ago. Michigan, not too long after that, went to 2 championship games with the Final Four. We know they went to the finals a couple of times with Beeline. They were that close last year, going back to the Final Four. So Michigan has been able to move on and have success. But, Seton Hall fans, they are obsessed about, that particular call. And you can understand because it was their one shot. Also during the game, which I thought was surprising, I was reading some of the stories, just seeing what other people had to say. There were some columns back in the day or whatever else. And I think this is true. It's also something I have to look through and just look at all of the final scores of all the championship games. But the story that I read from just, I don't know, was it a day or two ago said that it stands. The game 30 some odd years ago, 32 years ago, that there has not been a 1-point game in the championship game since. That was the last one. So that's pretty cool when it comes down to that. I've got some of that audio. I played a little bit from CBS and YouTube of Jim Nantz announcing it. I'll play some more on what I have here.
Live from the Kingdome in Seattle, Washington, CBS Sports welcomes you to the national championship game between the University of Michigan and Seton Hall. And good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Nantz. On October 15th, 293 Division I colleges and universities opened practice in pursuit of one goal: winning this championship trophy. 3 weeks ago, 64 teams were selected to participate in this year's tournament, and tonight we are down to 2, Michigan and Seton Hall, neither of whom has ever won the national championship. And so as we look for the Wolverines and the Pirates to provide us with that one shining moment.
Yeah, one shining moment. I asked people on the Wolverine Dead, the message board on TMBR, to give me a favorite memory from that 89, not just the championship game, but the tournament run. And the thing that I put down to get the ball rolling was Glenn Rice, and just how outstanding he was in the tournament. He was named the most outstanding player of the tournament. He scored the most points ever in the tournament. A record that did Carmelo maybe had gone through, and maybe what was the UConn? Kemba Walker maybe eclipsed it since then, or maybe Glenn Rice still has the tournament record for most points in an NCAA tournament. But that was what I got the ball rolling. So that was Jim Nantz. Here's a little Jim Nantz and Billy Packer in that 89 championship game.
They get it into Robinson's hand, bringing it down. The final seconds.
Oh, that's Brent.
Might as well clear out for him and let him take his man.
They're going to look for Rice, too, if he can flash. He's going to go to the other side. He comes out high. He's got Gaze on him. Gaze with him. Rice shoots. Rice doesn't get the roll. We're going to go to overtime.
Yeah, overtime. Yeah, so there you go. And they get into overtime. That was Brent Musberger, Jim Nantz. Not on the call there. It was Musberger and a Billy Packer. So here's that final call where Ramil gets fouled.
Down toward 5 seconds on the shot clock. Seton Hall will have to hurry. Morton will go one-on-one, up high, short. Michigan's ball. They've got an opportunity here now to win it. They've got to hurry. 5 seconds. Robinson goes in a foul call with 3 seconds. A foul against Seton Hall with 3 seconds.
Brent, that's the play that Michigan had been waiting for a long time. Keep the ball in Ramil Robinson's hands. Make Seton Hall make the play. Not much of a foul, but Green did hit him.
All right. Not much of a foul, but he did hit him. So Billy Packer not making it sound like it was that big of a deal. Hey, Ramil Robinson was not that great of a free throw shooter all season long for Michigan. I think 4%. But in that game, as he walked to the stripe, he was 7 of 8 and ended up 9 of 10 for the game. So and it was a 1-and-1. He needed to hit that first one, or that game was over. The other thing you can look to is that Mark Hughes, who had a pretty good field goal percentage for U of M, was standing there. I said 15 feet. I read a story that said 18 feet away from the hoop. And that's where the ball was going, where Ramil was going to pass it to him. And, maybe Mark Hughes just steps up, 15-footer, drains it right at the buzzer. And, it's the game-winning shot. And Mark Hughes' name is emblazoned forever there, hitting the game-winning shot, winning a championship. It would have been awesome and all of that. Maybe he would have. But Michigan got the call there, and Ramil stepped up to the charity stripe, knocked both free throws down, and that was that. Do we have the we still had Seton Hall with 3 seconds to go.
Michigan only 3 seconds away from claiming its first ever national championship and becoming the first team to win both the Rose Bowl and the NCAA in 1 year. Now, after the timeout, Fisher will deploy a taller man, Mills, against Ramos. He knows that P.J. Carlissimo cannot change. He's out of timeouts. So Fisher comes up with a big move After that timeout, they're going to have to get the ball over Mills, who will try to harass the big man on the throw-in.
Really like that strategy, Brent. Steve Fisher doing all the right things in this particular ball game. Segan Mills makes it tough to throw the line drive pass.
Starts when touch. Long pass. Walker and Green battle. Walker fires up. It's over. Michigan has won a national championship. And for the third time in the last 8 games, it has been decided by 1 point. The Wolverines win an NCAA title over Seton Hall, a tough opponent all the way.
Well, there you go. The audio from way back in the day. Thanks to CBS. Thanks to YouTube. Brent Musberger, Billy Packer, Jim Nantz on the call. It's going to be a 9 o'clock tip tonight. Every day we have the Michigan Recruiting Spotlight. Today it was with Jake Weingarten, who is from stockrisers.com, who has went out and watched a lot of Tarris Reed Jr., one of the Michigan signees, and we kicked the show off with that. The question I had was for people to go back and reminisce about the 89 tournament. And let's see what people did here. This is from the Wolverine Den. I put just, I guess I didn't spell it right. I can adjust that. My favorite memory of the tournament was just how unstoppable Glenn Rice was. How about use that edit button there, Dennis? Indy, 1526. Favorite memory of the 89 tournament was Bo's touchdown signal after Glenn hit a 3. Glenn Rice. There you go. I would also add in that tournament, Michigan had been stymied a few times in the previous years. The Villanova team that ended up beating Georgetown knocked them out one time when they were, were they a 1 seed, 1 or 2 seed? And Gary Grant was on that team, and that was a very painful one to take, and it didn't help. You think sometimes the team that beats you, if they go on and win it, does that make you feel? No. Didn't make you feel any better. I thought Michigan had a fantastic team that year. Gary Grant lost. They lost to Carolina twice maybe in there, but then they beat in 89. They were able to beat Carolina. And then they took on Virginia. It wasn't in the Final Four, so it would have been the Elite 8. They just blasted Virginia, scored like 100 points, didn't miss anything. And the thing about that is that the next game was the Final Four game against Illinois. Michigan had lost the 2 previous times in the regular season, in the Big Ten season. They had lost to Illinois. And then they came back and beat them at the buzzer. Mills had the shot. He'll be on the radio call tonight. And then Sean Higgins there on the weak side scooped it up, threw it off the glass, and Michigan won. That was a great game. Marcus Liberty and all those other the Flying Illini. I know there's a lot of back and forth with Illinois and Michigan, which is great. But back then that was Kendall Gill was on that team. Sean Bardo, I think, who works for the Big Ten Network. They were stacked. Illinois was, and eyeballing that national championship. I don't know if they have any complaints about that final shot, but there was Michigan, and Sean Higgins put Michigan into the title game before the Wolverines beat Seton Hall to get that championship. So there it is. And you start thinking about that when you got Michigan lining up to take on Seton Hall here this evening at 9 o'clock. And the first time they've only met, this will be the 3rd meeting all time. The first one was the title game. The second one they played the next year, and now they'll play it all again. So you'll get some of those memories if those guys are doing anything right. On Fox tonight, putting it all together. All right, that gets us to the Memorabilia Minute. I'll give you something on Michigan football as we sit here on a Tuesday. The Memorabilia Minute is me pulling something out and talking about it for a minute, memorabilia-wise, and with this being 89 championship memories and everything else, I went to that great player of that 89 championship game. I pulled a couple cards out. It's not if this was a very nice card or worth a lot of money, I'd have it in some plastic or something, but it is Glenn Rice. There he is. And here's another one that shows Glenn Rice playing with the Heat both times. It's actually on the back. Looks pretty cool too. A couple pictures there of Glenn Rice in the Memorabilia Minute. All right, football-wise, we're sitting here on a Tuesday, and I think you exhale a little bit. You got the Bozos tonight in the college football playoff release. Can't wait to see that thing. Those guys, I think Kirk Herbstreit and company should come out there, and they should all be wearing those Joker masks, or at least have a big red nose when they release that stuff, and try talking about that. And the game that we all love with a straight face, when we know they're just out there pulling our chains and everything else, it's not worth the aggravation or time. Just blast them and tell them that, just know how stupid it is. But, hey, some people, like the aggravation and the stupidity. They do. They really do. I worked with somebody one time, like before you even had the BCS, where you had the opportunity for two teams to play. This guy that I worked with was arguing like, no, he didn't want the two best teams to play. He liked the controversy that ensued in the offseason. Hey, yeah, Michigan in the Rose Bowl and Nebraska, you can talk about that forever and who would have been. And, I like to have it resolved on the field. I like the two teams to actually play. And the only thing that one of the things that is apparent now, I was always, I liked the 4. I did like 4. It was better than 2. And the 4, I was excited about that. I've enjoyed it. And yet, not being able to get another team in there like Cincy, having, and when they broke out the 12-teamer, you know what? I'm for it. I'm for a 12-teamer. I'm for an 8-teamer. I'm for a 6-teamer. I'm for more. I'm for less of what we're going to see tonight in the college football playoff. And I don't think it'll water it down enough. I used to think, would I really want to see Michigan play Ohio State, then see Michigan play Ohio State again 2 weeks later? You know what the answer is? Yes. I would like to see Michigan do that. Would I somehow want, Michigan and Michigan State to meet again this year if there was some 12-teamer and they were on the same side, if they both won a game or two? Would I want? Yeah, I'd be all right with it. It wouldn't water down the first game or anything else. I would be just as excited. So hopefully that happens sooner than later, and they get back in there and get the expansion of the playoff team, and we get less of what we're going to see tonight, which is the clown show and the college football playoff rankings that will come out here tonight. But as we sit here Tuesday of the Maryland week, you got Michigan winning that game against Penn State and pulling it out, both the offense and the defense in the last 6 minutes of that game. Step up. Of course, the offense, you had Haskins, the 5 runs before All's lightning bolt, the 47-yard touchdown. And then the defense comes out, makes 4 stops when Penn State has 2.5 to go, where they can go down and win the game. So high marks on both sides, offense and defense. Maryland, it's not that I'm taking Maryland lightly or you're taking Maryland lightly, or that we're, peeking over there down the road at Ohio State, which can make you nervous. I am sitting here on a Tuesday and just really relaxed and looking forward to this Saturday. I think that Michigan can go to Maryland and win that game. Wolverines are favored by 2 touchdowns. And I like Michigan in that game. Maryland can sling it. Talia Tagovailoa he's got a rocket of an arm, and, he can make some plays. But what Michigan has, what I've seen with the Michigan defense, look at the corners, and Jamon Green not playing last week, I thought was a really big deal, but DJ Turner really stepped up. I like what I see with DJ Turner. Vincent Gray looking very good. And you know what? I was jumping on Vincent Gray last year and what I saw from him at the corner position, but he has gotten better. And, these guys are up to the challenge of whatever Maryland's going to throw at them. And Michigan's safeties, when you're sitting here right now, Dax Hill, Dax Hill's been beat a few times. It's going to happen, but he's a playmaker. He's still a playmaker. I still like having Daxton Hill back there for U of M. The super senior Brad Hawkins, who won, made the big play at the end against Nebraska. He's pretty good. And the true freshman Rod Moore back there as a like I said, true freshman. It's great seeing him roam back there in the nickel packages. So I like Michigan's DBs. And obviously with Ajabo and Hutchinson meeting at the quarterback, I think that's going to be too much for Maryland to handle. And the way Haskins is going right now, you know what? Last Saturday, 201 scrimmage yards, 31 carries, which was a career high. The week before, 27 carries, which is a career high. Haskins is up to the challenge. You know, if they can go out there and play ground and pound and get after the quarterback, run the ball, cover, and get after the QB, I think Michigan can beat Maryland and set up a game where I think Ohio State's going to beat Michigan State. I mean, am I sitting around talking about, well, 2015 Michigan State went out there with a backup quarterback and beat the Buckeyes? I don't know. They did. So maybe it can happen. But I'm expecting Ohio State to win that game. And then, you know, Michigan will be sitting here next week and talking about U of M's chances again against OSU again, this time at the Big House. And I remember 2018. I remember 2016. Those games were both down south. So, yeah, I remember 2019. You know, the one thing I was a little tired of 2019 was that, and so that's the last time Michigan played, like trying to argue with somebody like, well, that was a close game. Well, Michigan lost in the end by double figures. So I don't know. It was close in the fourth quarter. Michigan had all kinds of opportunities in that game, and they played halfway decent. But we're getting to a situation where Michigan loses by double figures. And you're saying, well, that was still a close game. 2019, 2018, 2016. I don't look at a final score that's double digits as a close game, even if it was close in the fourth quarter. But, you know, that's just a matter of how you lay it out. Hopefully we are sitting here this time next week and debating all of those things. All right, we'll be back tomorrow and at 1 o'clock. I get a good one for you here. You like recruiting? I said, do you like recruiting? We've got, so let me make sure I've got it down here. And I've got Clint Cosgrove. He is the national recruiting analyst for Rivals. We'll talk about when Damani Jackson is going to make his decision. It's going to be on the 15th of December. But we'll get Cosgrove's opinion on Michigan's chances. And then anything else about any flips or flops or big names that Michigan can pull in between now and December the 15th. And here we are. We're less than a month away from signing day, the early signing day, which is the bigger signing day than the first Wednesday in February this year, the 2nd of February. It's actually the 15th of December is the big day. So we'll be counting down. We'll be excited about what Clint Cosgrove is going to bring to the table tomorrow. So that's going to do it. I want to thank Jake Weingarten from stockrisers.com and Daniel Dash, TMBR beat writer for basketball. He'll be at the game tonight. Oh, yeah, the game tonight. Around 10 minutes after it is done tonight, Michigan and Seton Hall, I'll turn on the camera. I'll be watching the game, and I will talk about it with you. CJ Baird, the former Wolverine, Jim Scarcelli, I'm hoping he's going to join us as well. We'll be talking about Michigan hoops late into the night after the Wolverines and Pirates tangle for the first time in over 30 years. So I'm looking forward to that. And I want to thank you for watching. And I don't know why I got a country song here. That's not what I was looking for. Well, let's see. Maybe I got something a little bit different here. No? All right. Thank you. Good night. Good afternoon. And if I'm going to play my sounder, here it is. I got to get the, where's it at? Oh, there it is. Good day.